You said the key points, the key words about this may happen in your country too, but this already happened in this country too. I want to mention one situation that happened not long ago, at the end of June, a few days after the Bulgarian government approved the provision of the second package of military aid to Ukraine. Several powerful explosions were at the local arms warehouse. It could be Russian sabotage. The Russians have been blowing up Bulgarian warehouses and weapons factories for years, said Yevgeny Dainov. It's professor of political science at the new Bulgarian University in interview with Novaya Vremya. But pro-Russian governments, pro-Russian prosecutors and policemen have never prosecuted these subversive groups. So what can change the situation except for such sabotage or such explosions or whatever may be produced by Russia inside the Bulgaria? What political or economical instruments can be used to change the situation? And should it be initiative of Bulgaria to keep safety in the region of Black Sea, or it should be made by with the help of the countries of ally?
If you look at those cases of explosions and of really threats and a blackmail by Russians, this is the language that they understand, the language of the force, the language of the blackmail, of threatening, and any country can be a victim of that approach. For Bulgaria, it has to ring a bell that they have to maybe revisit their policies, revisit and reevaluate their relations with Russia, and make sure that they put their national interest above all, and their national interest is a peace and security in the region, including the Black Sea region. And again, as a NATO country, as a EU member state, they have to be in line with our allies when it comes to the peace and security in the region and ensuring peace and security for Ukraine. So hopefully this will ring a bell, and hopefully the leadership, in particular the president that we mentioned, maybe will reimagine his understanding of the situation and his relations and his beliefs towards Russia.
I don't know how many tragic situations or tragedies have to happen here in Ukraine that even our neighbors, such as Bulgaria, finally understands what can await from Russia. I am talking about the destroyment of Kakhovska Dam, all the threats towards Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and we understand that we breathe the same air and we use the same water, and even Black Sea that brought to the shores of the countries that have Black Sea on the shores, the rest of the houses from Kakhovska region and Kakhovka region, and these threats are seen by Bulgarian parliament, Bulgarian government as a threat to their ecology, the nuclear power plants, or any terroristic act that might be used by Russia will bring the tragedy to their shores and to their grounds, to their lands. Do they understand it?
I guess they do to some extent. But you see, as many other countries, at some point we think of ourselves first, and we think that we all live on different planets, each of us, and nothing that happens in one part of the world can potentially affect the other part of the world. But the war in Ukraine proved differently, and slowly, step by step, different parts of the world understand that. It's interesting how our closest neighbors sometimes do not get that, even though our allies from the Indo-Pacific region, for example, speaking about Japan or even the small Taiwan island, they understand the threat really well and the consequences of this war. Of course, I hope that Bulgaria puts the interest of their people above the economic interest with Russia. Again, talking about the figure of the president of Bulgaria, who's been kind of navigating between him being a leader of the country, of the collective international organizations, and in the same time being a fan of the Russian narratives. But it takes time. And of course, it also takes a public opinion to pressure the governments to make sure that the governments understand the risks. It always comes to the media too. It comes to the disinformation tools and counter disinformation operations. We know very well that if the public opinion is not pressing, the governments usually can do different things behind the doors at their personal interests. So I do hope that we do our part very well, and even though the world is a little bit tired of the news of the ongoing war, which is understandable, it will still keep the Ukraine on the top of the agenda. Just as an example, Canada recently issued a national poll, saying that 63% of Canadians regularly follow to this day the news about the war in Ukraine. It's a pretty big number. And I hope that our closest neighbors hear even more about what's going on in Ukraine, and every day they can make their own picture of the real threats. So yeah, and as mentioned at the very beginning, we always try to turn back to the past and learn a little bit from those lessons, and from the World War II, for example. After the World War II, all of these wonderful organizations such as NATO or the European Union or the United Nations were established because countries understood that they have to work collectively, and something awful that happens in one part of the world eventually impacts the whole world order and the whole system. Hopefully, the war in Ukraine will bring a new stage of that development, a new understanding of this importance of the solidarity between the countries, and understanding that ecology, the sea, the water, the air, this is all our collective, and we have to take care of it.